I guess I'm live. And what do I do here? Do this again. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. Okay, so I'm back. I know I just took a little few minutes break to kind of get some things together. I'm actually going to start sewing. I'm at my serger and I have already cut out all my pieces, but now it's kind of time to work on, I have this great little caddy here that collects all my serging crap, and it's a little full, so I'm just gonna toss it in my garbage of all my scraps. All right. But yeah, so I'm going to start with finishing my edges, which seems like the thing you do at the end of your designs, but I end up doing it at the beginning. And so I need to change my thread. If you have a serger, you can actually do this with any serger. It doesn't have to be with this particular one, but this is a great tip if you want to switch your threads without having to do everything over again. And what I usually do is I have this covered, so this is down. So I'm going to pull this all the way up here. And then I'm going to get to the meat of it here. It's a little dusty, and I always need to clean it out a little bit because it's covered in little junk. Try to keep your machine as clean as possible and away from little dusties. It'll help your machine out in the long run. But what I do usually is to switch over the thread to make it easy is I'll first start with the looper thread. And the looper thread is these are the loopers, these little needle-like things here. And the looper threads are usually the two on the edge. And again, you could do this with any machine. It doesn't have to be this particular machine, but I usually cut those two strings and then I'll pull them down through the tension like this. And then I'll take those away. And so I still have the strings hanging out here. I know which one's which. And I'm gonna tie. You can kind of do this with the needles, but only really with the looper. So I'm gonna use blue. I need to get to blue. So I'm gonna start with my thread number 1. And I have to do this every single time I change colors. And I have to go through the top. The top part is this upper place. If you have a machine that has any kind of tension thing up here, you always have to go through it. And if you don't, you'll end up regretting it and it will get all mixed up. So I'm going to go through the back side here and here. And then where I've left this little tail, I'm just going to tie a little knot and go ahead and just tie that together. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. And this is totally the cheat. So if you already have your machine set up and say it's really specific, you can totally do this without having to rethread your whole machine. And it's so much easier, especially, I mean, it's easier on this one. This one pretty much threads itself, but it's definitely easier on the ones that have an order. And that way you're not having to go through and rethread everything. These little knots are small enough. I'm making a mess of it by not looking at it, but they're small enough that they'll go through your looper without hurting it. Now I can't just tie on these two because they go through the needle eye and the needle eye isn't big enough. So I am going to cut these anyway because the needles they take a lot longer for those threads to go through. I'll end up getting more of this blue thread through because it uses it faster on the looper side than the needles. So by the time I get to rethreading, it's not going to be a big deal. I'm just going to start machining. And I can see the blues going through. And I do want to get rid of the white anyway. I'm just going to totally rethread the needles. And so I do this in order usually, even though this has no order. And so it's usually 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to start with 3. And I'm going to keep this machine open. It's kind of hard to see in this light. But I always go up. This is the back tension bar here. There is a little pop-in socket. It goes down through here, and there's always guides. And your machine will always have guides. But this guide goes back through here. And then it's going to go through this guide right here. It's just underneath it. up and around. And then for the needle, for this machine, for my machine, it has this little marker here. And this tells me that I need to turn the wheel toward me until that green lines up like that. And that's the only way I'm going to be able to use my needle threader. So my machine has, so dusty. I hate when it's all dusty. It has a needle threader so that I don't have to sit here and go, oh no, I can't get bit through the eye. And I always make that voice, right? So this little like knob in here for this is my needle threader. So, I mean, you may not have this on my machine, but it says LR, which means left and right. And this one, number 3 is for the right needle. So I'm going to press it to the right. There's always usually a guide right next to the needle. My, this right here is what's going to go through my needle eye. And it's like a little hook, like a little crochet hook that goes through the needle eye, and then it will pick up the thread. And so that I don't have to try to think about it. And I just picked up the thread, and I'm going to pull the thread through here. A lot of times when you're using a serger, people have like plier or needle nose pliers. That's not what it is. Tweezers. I like words. They have tweezers, and they have to go through and get really in there to like get it through little holes and guides. This one's fairly simple, and so I just kind of use my fingers and pull it through. So for the left needle, it's a little bit easier. I'm just going to pull to the top, back to the guide, and around. It actually goes in the same guide. This is the tension part, and this comes off and you can kind of see, but all it is the little tension guide here. I'm going to push this thing back on there. It's just a piece of plastic, not a big deal. And then to do the left side, I'm just going to go left and get that through there. All right. And then just to make sure before I close it all up, I always like to run it. I know that some of the newer Imagines don't let you run it unless you've closed everything. I like to be able to see it and that make sure it's working. And it looks like a normal serge to me. I've got all the things set, so I'm ready to serge. And I serge pretty fast, which is one of the reasons why I have this little thing. But the serger moves. It like will chase me in a way, and so it's kind of annoying that it does that. Love this plug. Okay. So I've got some pieces here. This is for the skirt. And I think I'm going to start with this piece here. This is the Shaheen piece that I was talking about. Let's see if you can see the serger. Well, I could do it like that. All right. And a serger usually has like a blade here that cuts at the same time. It's really good to make sure your blade is sharp because it's going to create a nice, perfect freaking edge. Like the serger is my backup to how crappy I cut things. If you cut things with the rotary blade, if you cut things with the, an electric rotary cutter, which is what I use, if you use scissors and you just do it like really janky, this thing like clears it all up. And so it's like my favorite thing to go through. And I can see that some of this weave just from sitting here, and it wasn't doing anything, it's starting to come undone. For this piece, this is like the Shaheen fabric is like a linen, and I think it's like really, I guess you can't really see it that much, but it's really see-through. So I'm putting it on better fabric and incorporating some really beautiful poly cotton into this so that it looks a little bit nicer. And so I'm putting this together real quick. And this is the linen fabric, is that kind of loose weave that's going to unravel when you cut it, and especially if you leave it. So even if I didn't serge it, I would need to find some way to keep the weave from unraveling. For this, I'm going to do that whole thing all around. And I'm trying to keep the machine from running out. It's also cutting at the same time. The blade is here and the edge is here. If I cut this fabric right at this edge, I'll be cutting about 1/8 of an inch off. And since I cut this fairly close, I don't want to cut the 1/8 of an inch off. Like that's the most I'd want to cut off. And if you go any further, you're going to cut into your outfit or whatever. So I keep it pretty close to inside so that it doesn't cut too much off. So I might end up losing like this much off the edge, but I probably overcut it around the pattern about that much. So it's perfect. And that way I don't lose my 5/8 seam or any of my sizing. And so also for this, like I didn't have the perfect thread. When you buy the thread for your machine, you have to have 4, and I don't always have 4, but the dominant colors are going to be the looper, the 2 on the edge, and the less dominant are going to be here. I probably should have switched this around, but it's blue. It's not that big of a deal. And it's going to be on the inside. It's going to look nice anyway. So this is just the inside. I'm not going to have any serged edges that you're going to see except for on the inside. So as long as it looks nice, you could probably get away with doing white or black and keep those as your basic colors. Maybe getting a red and a cream color. And the machine is constantly fighting me. So I just serge really fast. So sergers, they don't go backwards. They only go forward. So you can't backstitch on them. And a lot of times you're left with these tails. I guess there's this tool that you can use that you can put it in a big hole and then tie the tail back in. I've never used that or even known about it until recently. And most threads you're going to use are polyester, and polyester melts. So I always keep a lighter handy with me, and I light the tails on fire. So I just do this, and the tail, when it melts, it's going to make a little knot. So I'm constantly lighting on fire. I don't like that lighter, so I'm trying to see if I have another one real quick. I like having a nicer lighter, but that's fine. I don't see another one. Okay. Well, I will find one later. I have all these tools, but oh, there's my lighter. I like these Bic lighters because they're a little easier than these cheapo ones. Yeah, so I just light my tails on fire. And also I feel like sometimes when you're cutting your threads from your sewing machine, you can't get as close, and so you have a little bit of tail, and I totally light it on fire. I just am really careful. And you can do this also with your polyester fabric, but if you if you do this with your cotton, you could light it on fire and it like burns and turns your fabric black. So be careful with your fire, but I do use a lot of fire in my sewing. Now I'm doing the bottom around the edge. I'm actually serging 2 pieces together. And usually for this piece, facing, so you're not going to actually see this image, but the only reason why I'm serging it is because I'm trying to make sure I keep this linen intact so it doesn't unravel on the inside, unbeknownst to the wearer. So you can kind of think about when you're serging, or if you need to finish edges, how are they going to be seen? Like, is it going to be something that is lined? If it's lined, you probably don't need to finish the edges because you're not going to be able to see any of it. And you're also going to leave 5/8 of an inch. So you're not going to have so much wear and tear against the body because they're going to be on the inside. If it's something that's not lined and you're going to be able to see the edges, those are the things that you want to do. A lot of times facing, the reason for facing is so that you can cut real close or it's on a curve. So you usually only see the facing edge on the outer part, but not the inner part. So you only have to serge one of those edges. And when you start getting comfortable, you are a lot less afraid of going with that machine, this machine. I mean, my machine's pretty fast. I've actually broke a part of it. There's this piece in here, right here, that is a little tiny wire. And how do you even use it? Oh, you're supposed to be able to push it up like this, and it keeps the upper looper from working correctly. And I never use it. It's only for like a 2 thread, but I have serged so fast that I broke this. And the only way to fix this is to actually buy a whole nother looper, which is like $150. So, I mean, maybe I was fine with paying that because I think I broke it again within a year. I think it was a default part, a faulty part, because I broke it again within a year. And because I had bought it within a year, they replaced it for me without giving me any trouble and making me pay for it twice. But I haven't broken it again since, but I searched pretty fast. I think this is also one of the faster machines that you can get without having an industrial. And I would normally burn these edges. Sometimes I'm lazy, like I am right now, and I'm just going to move on and I'll burn them when I'm actually sewing. I always try to get rid of all my little extra doodads when I'm sewing so that I don't have too much. So I'm going to look at this piece. This is part of my skirt. It's this part. No, wait, it's this part here. And I know that I'm going to have facing all along this rounded edge. So I don't need to serge that edge. I just need to serge this edge right here. So I'm only going to have to serge 1.5 parts of this. So I'm going to do that real quick. I realize I haven't cut out the straps. The machine is moving. It's trying to come at me. It's trying to fight me here. What? I serged so fast I unplugged it. Okay. I'm also going to serge this little tiny part in the back on the side. It's part of the pattern. I've just done this one so many times. I know where the edges are to serge. Some patterns, like what I really love about Gertie is that she does tell you what parts you need to serge. So this is a weird piece. I'm just going to serge one of the or two of the edges, I think. And once I serge this, I can start sewing. Plug. I have a new computer, and this has a magnetic plug, and it can't handle how fast I'm serging right now. It keeps popping out. I don't like to waste time. This light bulb. Okay, so let's see. I need to do this. I have been serging for such a long time that I can turn the corners pretty easily, but you can, and there's going to be a hole in this. I'm okay with that because there's just something in the way I'm sewing this, but you can actually turn the blade off, but it's not a overlocker. So an overlocker can sew with fabric everywhere, kind of like a sewing machine, and it won't get all bunchy, but a serger needs to be only on the edges. You can turn the blade off, but it can mean that you're going to end up getting a bunch of material wrapped up in it. But it does sometimes help when you're doing a turn or a curve and you're worried about cutting more than you want to cut off. And so there's a little mechanic piece on here. Mine just says lock, and it keeps it down. Now, if I was going really fast and I passed by that blade and I'm not being careful, even though it's not moving up and down and cutting, it could still cut it a little bit because it's a sharp blade. But I just have to be a little careful and mindful if I'm going to lock it. And it is always better to have it unlocked if you can and serge like the way you're supposed to. This is the back, and I know that it's going to be none of the bottom is done, but all of the sides are done. So I just got to do the two sides, and then I'm done serging for right now. I'm going to start sewing. Should I sew the skirt? Should I sew the top? I'm not sure yet. We'll see. So if this thing can move, I swear I'd be a lot faster. Oh my goodness. I don't know if people are meant to serge. Well, that's that. I think that is why. I know that is why there's entire tables for other machines, because they go so fast with the motor. They're trying to go everywhere, so they're stuck inside of a table, so they don't try to move on you. I don't think they make a table for the machine. I just have to sit there. So I guess if I went slow, like this is how you're supposed to go. But I like to go fast. So we got that side. Do one more side, and then we'll start sewing. I think I'm gonna do the skirt, top skirt. I don't know. What I love is I am doing a lining on this, so I don't have to serge the top. One more side and then I'm done serging for right now. Sorry, it's so loud. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off for right now, this machine, and then I'm going to, I don't think I have my other one set up, so I need to put some glue together. That was my thing unplugging. It's very fickle sometimes. All right, so let's see. I have a Juki TL18QVP, and what that is it's this machine here. All this machine can do is a straight stitch. It can't do any zigzags. And I bought it because it goes really fast. And it's the fastest machine that I could own that is not stuck in a table. I don't have room to have a machine stuck in a table. Actually, this machine over here, that's a machine underneath all that is stuck in a table. But I don't have any room to have like a bunch of machines. Someday when I don't know, that'd be so cool to have a bunch of industrials, but I don't. So you'll see that it has this this thing in here, and this is called a knee lift. And while I'm sewing, this is the foot of the machine, and I can lift up the foot with my knee so that if I have to use both of my hands, I don't have to try to lift it up from the back here. So that's really great. And the other thing it has that you'll hear while I'm doing it is it has this little scissors thing, and so I'm gonna turn it on. This actually cuts the thread so that I can cut it here without actually having to lift it, pull it out of the machine, and cut it. It also has it on the foot where I can press the back pedal of it. I end up just accidentally pressing that all the time, and then I create an issue, and I've cut the thread when I didn't mean to. It has specific bobbins like most machines do. Use these ones, and so I have to get the right bobbins together and set up for this machine. Drink some water. Hydration. So you can kind of see here. All right, let's see. And then it has a top loading thing as well. Not a lot of machines have this, but I do love it a lot. I mean, this machine is great. It's super fast, and if you think about, except for doing buttons, and I do like to do my zippers on it. You can do zippers on this machine, but I like the feet on my other machine for my zippers. But it can do anything that you need to do with a straight stitch, and most everything you need to do is with a straight stitch. This machine can get through a lot of stuff. Like, it's pretty much a beast, and it sews at, I think, 1,500 stitches a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna load the bobbin in real quick. This machine has the bobbin in the bottom here, and this is lifting up here, the bobbin right there. I already pulled it out, but I'll show you when I put it back in there. So it has this little container, right? And it has like kind of a little bit of a nubbin. And so I'm going to lift up that because that's actually how you can hold it easier. And the best way to thread your machine is to read your instructions. Take the time to read them, because a lot of times when you're threading something, it has to go in a certain way, like a certain way around the spool. I'm going to stick this in here like that. And then there's a little bit of a crease right here that the thread goes through. I'm going to pull it back until it sticks into this little hole. And so that's the guide for this. And that actually controls the tension of the bobbin. And then I'm going to hold it in my hand And for this machine, I just stick it straight back. That's what helped me guide it. I'm going to lower that little lid. I'm going to give myself a little bit more string. I'm going to close that in there, push it down. And then I need to do the upper thread. If you're finding that it's not letting you, it's probably because the foot's down. And the foot was down. So I'm just going to clean this up real quick. And I think I'm going to do the skirt first, or at least the bottom parts of the skirt. So this is you can kind of see it. Sorry, the lighting. I don't have a curtain. This is the thread right here. The guide has to go up through here, so I have to take it up. And then there's another guide. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see. I'll try to thread it like this. For this machine, there's some guides here. This one doesn't. Sometimes machines will tell you like how it wants you to go and actually give you a number. This one doesn't, but it does through the manual, and I just know how to do it. So it's through this hole, and then this hole, and then this is a secondary tension right here that I have to go over, under, under, through this little looper thing here, pull down, around, all these little guides, and then I have a needle threader, and I don't always get it on the first time. And then I'm gonna hold, I'm gonna hold the needle thread. I'm gonna press the down needle, press it up, and it should have pulled my thread out. So now I have both my threads through there. I have an up-down needle on this too. That's the other thing I like about this. A lot of times industrials don't have the thread cutter. They don't always have the up-down where automatically they'll stop on the up-down. A lot of newer machines do, or electronic machines will, when you're sewing, the needle will always stop down. And that's really helpful for when you turn curves or when you need to kind of like lift up your foot. You don't want to ever lift up your foot with the needle up, or you'll end up, that's when you want to pull it out. Like you have to pull it out and reset. Because if you try to pull it out or you try to sew with your foot up, you'll end up with thread everywhere, and it's awful. And I've done it. And sometimes I unconsciously do it with this needle lift. My other machine has a warning system that won't let you. And this machine will, but it's fine. It's still a beast, and it definitely gives me a lot less problems. So I'm going to burn some of the edges here. Let's see. Okay, and I have some guides on here. When I was doing my pattern, I always draw my darts on. A lot of patterns have little tiny guides, like little triangles on them, and they're so that you can match each side. I don't always put those on there because I'm trying to cut things out fast and it annoys me. And in general, I've been sewing long enough where I can find those guides. Sometimes I regret not doing those things, or like I actually realize, oh no, I needed to mark that circle because it will tell you in the directions, sew from the large circle to the little circle. So I would, if you're starting to sew, like always put those in there. Or if you're going to need to mark them, you can take a pen and just draw them on there. And by a pen, I mean one of these friction pens. They're amazing. It's Frixion. And you can test to make sure before you use them, because some fabrics, they leave a little bit of a mark, but not really. But they come in all different colors. I have a red one, I have a green one, black one, purple one, and I have a blue one. And you can draw or write on your item. And then the iron, the heat will make it erase. So here I have, you can see, I don't think you can see it. You probably can't. I can't see it. So if I can't see it, you can't see it. But there is a drawn guide for my dart. And usually when I do my dart guides, I will mark the middle, mark the sides, and then I'll use a ruler to meet them in the middle, because that's usually a guide. You can kind of see it there. Well, usually the guides are exactly that straightness. And then I'll sew those, and then I'll iron them, and then all that pen writing will go away. Or I have this skirt that I make that I can't sometimes tell which is the front. So I'll literally write front. The only way that this pen will come back is if you put it in the freezer. So if you're thinking that you might wear this dress or something in freezing, literally freezing temperatures, then the mark could come back, but it'll go back away with heat. So these are like actually considered like erasable pens, and they're wonderful for sewing. So I don't use pins to do my darts, and I don't do them the way that I was taught, which you're supposed to sew. You're supposed to do a back stitch here, but not a back stitch at the corner. You're supposed to like leave the tails and then tie it in a knot. I do a back stitch because I just do it very small and very carefully, and I don't think it looks bad. And I trust more that my back stitch is going to hold than me tying a little knot, especially with my booty popping open these seams. So I usually just match these together, and then I will make it like a fold like this. And in general, I'll just sew along one line. I can only see one of the lines, but I've lined it up where it should work. And let's see. See if my money is where my mouth is. Yeah, so I've sewn along the line there and there in the dart. It's pretty good. I don't have to go back. This is one of the things I do make a mistake about. Like if I am going too fast, I will sometimes, if it's too much out of the line, I will redo it. If it's very slight, I'll leave it because it's not that big of a deal. But if it's like significant where it might change the sizing, like it's more than 1/4 of an inch, I will redo the dart, sewing it. And that happens to me fairly frequently. So I guess like half the time it saves me time and half the time it doesn't, but I just really don't like using pins. And I usually just start it, and again, like I'll find that corner. I just don't like using pins. It's pulling some thread. There. Why are you doing that? Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's like slightly on the inside. It's not even that bad. I'm gonna leave it. All right, and then I have my darts. Darts are done. I will iron these because not only do I want to get rid of that line, but I want to make that nice and crisp. And usually I have scissors that are attached to me, little tiny scissors that I don't have to keep finding them, and they're clipped to me. So a really good tool is to get like a little pair of blunt scissors, and then you can have those ready for you easily. All right, so fire. Oh, this is the wrong lighter. Okay. For this piece, that's the bottom. For this piece, usually I don't sew the front and back together, but for this piece, because of the way that the facing is, I need to make the facing work. So I'm gonna sew it, but I'm gonna do something special when I sew these two pieces. I'm sewing the back, and the back has some darts in it to create that booty look. And I could use my knee lift for that, but sometimes I like to be precise in my hands. Every time I start something, I do a back stitch. That looks fine to me. Maybe the other one. And I usually also try to group all the ironing that I have to do so that I'm not getting up and down to iron all the time. Yeah, it's fine. All right, so since this is the back, I'm gonna put the back pieces together before I iron it. I'm gonna iron it one time. I know that this is the very center of the back. If you had your things on there, there's going to be a zipper in the back. So what I'm going to do to help me out is I'm actually going to, the zipper mark is, I'm just guessing. I didn't put the zipper mark in here. I could have, I should have, but I'm probably going to make it lower than I usually would just because I want to make sure that this is an easy garment to get in and out of. This is like the only time I use pins. is to mark where I want things to start and end. So I'm going to use one pin here, and that's just to let me know that I'm going to change my stitch. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to backstitch on the top. I'm going to change my stitch length to like super long, because eventually I'm going to take part of these stitches out to help me with the zipper. So I'm going to sew really long stitches from here to this point, and then I'm going to backstitch here and then sew normal, because I'm going to keep all the stitches in here. And then this is actually where I'm going to put my zipper. So I need this to be open later. This is not part of the instructions. This is something I've learned to do. And I'm sewing, oh, I did backstitch, whatever. I'm going to have to pull that out. But I am sewing all of this normal stitch at 5/8. I do have a guide on my machine. It's on my plate, and I can see it says 5/8. If you can't see your guide, almost every single sewing machine has a guide. But if you can't see it, you can totally take a piece of tape and like tape it out. And that way you can see where up to you sew. And you just follow that guide. So I'm always like looking at that guide and trying to match my edges. Serging it also helps, because I'm not pinning any of this, but because of the serge, those little fabric, those little threads are kind of helping me keep those fabrics together. So I'm literally just holding this and not pinning it. Keeping it at 5/8. And then I've gotten to the point where I've gotten to my marker, and that went really fast because I did a long stitch. Now I'm going to turn my stitch back down to my normal length. I'm going to back stitch. So this is where the zipper end is going to be. I'm not pulling it, I'm just guiding it. I always love when you get to the edge and the edges match and they're not, one's not longer than the other. Okay. All right, so there's my back of the garment. It is all together. There is going to eventually be a zipper in this, and I need to iron open that seam so that it looks nice. I'm not going to do it quite yet because I'm going to keep going so I can make this full skirt. As soon as I get all these pieces together, I'm going to take it to the iron, but I need to do some more fire. I do like doing, oh, that was cotton. Do you see how much it caught on fire? And it smells, you could smell the cotton more than you can smell the polyester, but I know you can't smell it. I do like to talk on these a little more because it motivates me to keep track of what I'm doing and actually be accountable. So I appreciate you watching. I'm hopefully I'm not boring you. And if I am, I guess you're going to have to deal with it. I don't know. Okay, so let's see. Always put right sides together unless for some reason your instruction says otherwise. Right sides means the side that you're going to see. So putting this right sides together for the skirt. I started sewing without doing anything else. Are we doing okay? Yes, okay, cool. Just checking my battery. All right. I didn't do the bottom of this, but that's fine. Perfect. All right, so there's part of this skirt here. Looking good. I need to put the sides on. This is going to attach the back. Let's see. Where is my lighter? I keep losing it. You'll have to tell me where I put my lighter. I guess I'll use this one. I still don't like this one. It doesn't light very well. It usually gets stuck under my machine. Nope, I don't see it. All right, put this to the back. And again, we're going to put the right sides together. There's a curve, a little bit of a curve in this one, but it should match. I think after I do the skirt, this will be the end of part 2. Appreciate you joining me. Let me know if you have any questions. Almost there. Yes, that's great. Okay. Next stitch. All right, so got the back to the part of the front. And then I've got to do the other side. This is like a wrap skirt. That's why it is how it is. Lighter. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then these sides together. I think it's these sides. Oh, I didn't do the darts on this, so I have to do the darts real quick on this. There's darts. I always like to do the darts first. It actually tells you to do it anyway, but it'll change the size of the waist if you don't do the darts. So they're really important. It'll change the way that a bra, or not a bra, but like the way that a shirt fits around a chest. It's basically what helps make a dress 3D. This is the start. Okay. And again, this is done all without pins. Yeah, looks good. I do not like the pins. So it'll take some time, but I'm gonna time myself one day and be like, how fast can I make this thing from start to finish? Because part of the longest part again is all the cutting. If your machine ever sounds different, something's wrong. Like you should know the sound of what your machine sounds like. If it sounds easier, you probably ran out of thread. Okay. Almost there. Now I have to iron open all the seams. All right, so this is kind of basically, it's long. So that's because this is gonna wrap, this isn't my size necessarily, but this is gonna wrap all the way around like this and then have this here. Yep, I'm gonna have to put the interfacing in and keep working on it, but I think that that's gonna be it for now. I appreciate you joining me, and let me know if you want to do like an actual pattern from start to finish, and I will catch you on the flip side. If you like my channel, please subscribe, I guess, or join my Patreon. My Patreon is www.patreon.com/Hollyday, HOLLYDAI, and I'm creating all the things, making lots of vintage inspired outfits and making home crafts. I did a vintage makeup case, working on a vintage Valentine wreath, doing some velvet painting. I have a lot more ideas, and so I'd love to share them with you. And if you want to see art and vintage inspired crafts, please join me. All right. Thank you.